So very good evening, all of you. My name is Kabir Bogilal. I am the owner of Opening New Horizons, and I've been bestowed this honor today to talk on and with some amazing people who will be introduced in a minute. I would like, first of all, to thank Maharashtra Dyslexia for letting me have this opportunity to be a panel chair with great speakers of it. So, speakers, if you could please turn on your videos. Okay, thank you. So, I think before we start, I will have a partner in crime. Her name is Shifa. She's here. She's going to be helping me from Maharashtra Dyslexia to run this program tonight. So, have you seen the poster already? I want to start off with ladies first. So, Shilpa, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Kabir. It's a privilege to be here today. So, hello everyone. This is Shilpa. I'm a serial innovator and an entrepreneur and a partner at a major IT firm. Kabir kind of jokingly asked when I told him I'm an entrepreneur, and he said that, "Have you given the right, the right spelling?" And I said, "Yes, it's an entrepreneur." So, entrepreneur essentially is someone who runs a business within an already established business. So, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm working on helping Fortune 500 companies accelerate their purpose agenda through innovation, research, and technology. I am dyslexic and also an advocate and a champion of dyslexia. I share my story with a lot of organizations, including Madras Dyslexia Organization, Gold Parents Group, Changing, Corporate, and several others. And I'm also on the advisory board of Able Aura. And I specifically discuss about dyslexia at workplace, have been part of several initiatives with Naukri.com, Ashoka University, Women in Tech, IBM, TCS, and many more. Really a privilege to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Jack, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello. Yeah, my name's Jack Churchill. I'm based in the UK. I've got an organization called Scanning Pens, which creates a little pen scanner for supporting reading. I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 14, and for the last 20 years, I've been working in the assistive technology world with pen scanners for supporting reading and access to printed materials. We actually have an office in Mumbai and about 25 members of staff based there, which is great. And I've visited on several occasions. We also have something called Succeed with Dyslexia. Over there, you can see on behind me is a bag which says Succeed with Dyslexia. It's sort of like a corporate social responsibility about raising awareness for dyslexia and putting on festivals and things. And one of the things we've done in the last 5 years is create a campaign around Dyslexia Awareness Month called Go Red for Dyslexia. So there's my Go Red for Dyslexia t-shirt. And I'm very grateful to buildings around the world and companies with logos going red for dyslexia. And I think there are quite a number of buildings in India going red, and the MDA has been busy supporting that. So great to be here, Kabir. Thanks for asking me on.
Thank you very much. Pete, could you introduce yourself, please?
Namaste, Kabir. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great honor. My name is Pete Jarrett. I was diagnosed a very, very long time ago with dyslexia in the 1970s. So I'm one of the early people with the condition. I've got a later diagnosis of ADHD. My career started in dyslexia, started as a teacher when I realized that there were conversations that were happening that sounded too similar to my own childhood experiences. But I've sort of moved through the teaching and supporting learners in school to now running an organization that focuses on how we can use big data sets to understand neurodiversity and other barriers to learning better. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Aaron Smith, please introduce yourself.
Hopefully you can hear me now. I pressed the right button.
Yes.
Good. That's good. Hi, I'm Aaron Smith. I'm a severely dyslexic adult. I was diagnosed at the age of 9 and probably have a number of other conditions, including ADHD, ASD, and dyspraxia. Normally I say if I fall over, I'll pick myself up, but we're sitting on a chair, so we should be all right. I run an organisation in the UK called the Dyslexia Show, which was the UK's first national exhibition dedicated to dyslexia and neurodiversity. We go into our 3rd year next year as the leading dyslexia event and neurodiversity event for the UK, and had about 3,000 people attend this year, and looking at the moment to around 4,500. And I've worked with Kabir in many different hats. I wear many hats, as he said earlier, but so that's the one I've been told that's what I'm here for. So I'm going to talk about dyslexia and things I do.
Thank you, Aaron. So I want to just start off quickly, just a quick note on, I want to know, what does dyslexia mean to you? I know you have all introduced yourselves and talked about a little bit about dyslexia when you got diagnosed. But Shilpa, if you could just start off, just tell me, what is the word, the meaning, the understanding of dyslexia to you? Just a quick brief on what you believe dyslexia is.
Sure. So I feel that dyslexia is a unique strength because, it brings out a superpower in you rather than looking it as an impediment, but looking at it as the strengths that it brings with it, right? So everything from ability to look at it a big picture, ability to bring in the creativity and the empathy that it comes along with. So I see this as a superpower.
Thank you. Jack, what about you?
Well, I think dyslexia, even just the word, it's a complicated word to both spell and read, so that kind of sums up the whole thing for me, as it were. But dyslexia is definitely a sort of learning difference, and from my understanding of it, certainly with young children, if they're given the right pathways and the right tools from the right age, they can get back on track and be able to function alongside their peer group. So, I mean, everyone has a different type of dyslexia. I don't think any 2 people would have it exactly the same. So it's definitely a whole sphere of differences. But it's not something to be ashamed of or to be it's something to be. I find it as a positive, something I enjoy having as part of my everyday.
Excellent. Aaron, what's your view on the
Dyslexia is just me.
word?
Dyslexia is just me. It's who I am, what I do every day. It is a frustration. It is a benefit. It is a supportive tool. It is an annoyance tool. It's one of these things that's part of life. And I think if you don't understand what your own dyslexia is, I think what Jack said earlier about it being definitely definitely that concept where not everyone's individual. Actually, I think it is very beneficial to understand yourself. And that for me is what kind of is what it is for me. So it's who you are, and yes, it has difficulties, and yes, it has strengths.
Okay, Pete, what's your take on it?
So dyslexia is one of a range of neurodiverse conditions that overlap significantly, but I think neurodiversity perhaps is better described as biodiversity. Every biological organism is slightly different. And if you accept that there are slight differences, it's the environment that we all exist in that creates the challenges for us. Dyslexia, as everybody has said, I think many dyslexic people have particular strengths. I think I consider myself somebody that can understand complex systems and perhaps solve problems. but then there are things that I find really difficult, like getting my brain and my mouth coordinating at the same time. So I think, if we understand that everybody is different and the environment creates the barriers for certain people in certain situations, then we can move forward.
Okay, for me, I think it's this beautiful hidden ability. I use the word hidden ability a lot because there is multiple of people who look at you and they say, "Oh, you don't look dyslexic," and then the funny question says, "How does a dyslexic look?" So I just want to tell the audience, and this is how we can look. I mean, we're all different. We're all beautiful minds doing different things. I think dyslexia as overall is a subject which, if you don't understand it, you should. And I really think that if you dig deeper, you'll find a lot of things that are able for people instead of thinking that it's a disability. You see, the aspect of understanding that this is a disability, I would put my hand up and say, no, this is not. There is so many pluses to it. I just wanted to know from Jack, just name a few pluses from your side on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely pluses, but sometimes those pluses can get you into trouble too. I mean, creativity is pretty, from what I've seen, one of the biggest words that people connect with dyslexia, and it prompts me in meetings in the company to interrupt on a regular basis and to throw in my sometimes mad, crazy ideas, which most of the time are sort of thrown out the window as quickly as they've been thrown into the conversation. But sometimes those ideas do end up standing the test of time and getting taken on board. And for me, I think it's that sort of thinking slightly out of the box, slightly left field that seems to be the benefit that I come across from time to time. And it's much better than the negative of being late for meetings and being late for aeroplanes, which sometimes does also get me into trouble.
So Shilpa, what's your view on this?
No, I completely agree with Jack. Creativity is one of the strengths. But what I also realize is that the creativity also comes with resilience, because we've been creative so much throughout our life and been rejected so many times. It also comes with resilience to kind of just get up and try one more time and not give up. And sometimes that not giving up piece helps you to get where you get to. So I feel it's both creativity and resilience which comes together.
Okay. Aaron?
I think it's also the concept of being
Did
able
you turn up your volume? Sorry, Aaron.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
That's a go. I think it's also the concept of actually being able to think outside the box and see that thing differently. The concept there of seeing things differently, seeing how you look at things is like what Jack said about throwing ideas in the company. I think that's a really that's seeing things differently. You think of ideas and you throw it in, and that's the positivity of dyslexia, is that you can look at it. I always see that I can look at an argument and it sometimes for me goes, well, actually I can see both sides of it, and actually I don't know which side I fall on, and that sometimes can be quite difficult, but it also is a really good strength because you can empathize with people.
Yeah, I think I would agree with this for sure. Pete, do you have a take on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially what everybody's already said, which shows that there's perhaps some consistency across this. I think one of the things that I find a lot of dyslexics do very, very well is that they have a very good impression of the big picture, and that sort of strategic view, but perhaps find it harder to drill down to the detail. And it's quite interesting that all of us here are in management roles, and quite often I think once you reach that role, you actually almost find that a bit easier, really, because you can see the problems that need solving and you can come up with solutions with problems. But when it comes to actually tightening the bolts that you need to tighten, so I think it's that. The other thing is, I think many people with dyslexia, like Aaron said, work in shades of grey rather than black and white, and we live in we live in a world that's getting increasingly sort of binary. It's you're either right or you're wrong, and that's never actually the case. There's all sorts of shades of grey between it. And I think people with dyslexia are very often very good at seeing shades of grey, which is actually a disadvantage in the education system.
Okay.
As you say, but I can do it a bit like that.
Okay. I was, that leads me up to something which always I think is important. I've always talked about self-esteem and self-confidence. This is something which always lingers around every dyslexic. I could linger around a lot of other people too, but since the topic is on right now, so I think, there is a clear definition about self-esteem and there's a clear definition of self-confidence. I know as a child, it's been hard for me to first identify on both because I just was called a failure, and that did not make me understand either or of the words. So I just want to do a quick take. Aaron, if you could just tell me something a little bit about just self-esteem, self-confidence. So the idea is what we're trying to say is how did you perceive it and what have you come out? Because you have come out. We'll come out on the topic later again, but I just want to know, what was it going through that initial stages, please?
I use an analogy over here called going to the dentist. So that feeling of stress and anxiety when you go to something you don't like doing, like I don't like going to the dentist. I had a lot of teeth taken out when I was younger. And for me, that was really hard. And I think that's how dyslexia felt. And especially in that early year of school, I was diagnosed very early in one sense, that I was being picked on for not knowing what 1 times 1 was. I was being picked on for being different. I was just I didn't have any friends that were my own age. I was more interested in talking to older people because I could relate to them, or younger people. And I think that's the thing, is that actually knocks your self-confidence and your self-esteem until you understand that you are that person. But it's then when you find the people in your lives that change it. And like, we had a special needs coordinator here in the UK one of the schools I went to that actually used the word dyslexia. And that just changed my life. I was never called dyslexic by a teacher. I was called by a teacher. A teacher told me that I'd never amount to anything because I couldn't read or write. And you don't always remember them things, but also then you do remember them when you think about it and go, well, that's probably why I didn't do this. So yeah, it can be really detrimental to your own self-esteem. But I think I always say the understanding of your own strengths and differences goes a long way.
Yes. And I also think that, I learned all the failures very well. So now I know how to mask them all. And I know all the strengths amazingly better because we just know how to get along and move with things. I know that Aaron, you and me have been diagnosed when we were much younger. And the rest have, had different stages of life. So Shilpa, a little bit on, your view on self-confidence, self-esteem.
Sure. So I was not diagnosed as a child. So I did not know. I mean, at that point in time, there was not much of awareness about dyslexia when I was growing up. And I was also not aware about it. And neither were my parents or anybody in the school and others. And I had all these struggles, right? And I still have some of these, right? Like figuring out left and right. And I have this trick of painting my nails. So this is left, this is right, and all of that. So I knew there was something which was different because the way things work for everyone else did not work for me. And I had to kind of find out these little hacks which could help me navigate my way through, to figuring things out. And always, I always took more time than anyone else to kind of figure things out a little bit. So a lot of effort used to kind of, used to go in figuring these things out. Like, for example, like reading out loud. So you have this class in where, a teacher kind of talks about, like, you're reading from a book, and then the teacher stops, and then the teacher asks the next kid to kind of, come on now, start from there. And I could not read. And I used to tremble, and it was just an awful experience. And as a result, what I started doing was I asked my mom to kind of, read it to me, and I would just memorize those things. And then based on memory, I used to kind of speak that out. So a lot of effort went in to do a lot of those things up front, and that's where I spend most of the time, rather than doing things which other kids would otherwise do, like get into sports or get into other things. So I spend my time focusing on just getting to do the regular things. So I would say that's been my experience from a childhood perspective. On the self-confidence and self-esteem piece of it, one of the things which my parents, and I'm lucky to have parents who thought about that, they kind of enrolled me in a lot of competitions, and the objective there was just to participate and not ever to kind of compete or win, but just just be there, because that kind of helps you just understand different perspectives, make new friends, and just navigate through. So that really helped me to look at life very differently.
Okay, thanks. Pete?
What was the film that you told me about the other day? What's that film?
Tare Zameen Par.
It's the one. The first half of that film described my life. Not being sent away to boarding school, that didn't happen. But the being lazy, the shaming, the being broken by the words that were around me. I had my diagnosis when I was 15 in 1978, and at that time in the UK, it was very rare to have a diagnosis. So, I mean, that was strange. And it left me feeling that I had something wrong with me. That was very definitely the way it was presented to me, because there wasn't anybody then who could say, well, this is what it's like, this will be a strength. So that has left scars that have lasted my whole lifetime. And like you said, Kabir, I've learned to mask. I've learned to find what I'm very good at doing. My academic specialism is dyscalculia, the maths learning difficulty. Many of my colleagues have written books. I have never written a book, because writing a book is a significant challenge for me. But I'm very happy talking to people about it.
One day you shall, Pete. One day you shall.
We'll talk about it.
No, write a book.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, I haven't shut up talking about it for the last 20 years, so I'm not going to start now. But I think it does leave. And what Aaron said about masking and everything, I think you do get to know what your strengths are. You learn to cover up your weaknesses. And I'm very fortunate in over the years in accepting my condition, largely because of seeing other people go through the things that I went through, and I now have the support in place, like things like scanning pens, which there are tools there to use, and learning what works. It's not impossible to deal with. You just need to know what works, and work with people that trust you and you trust.
Before I get to Jack, I just want to say that Aaron was mentioning about how we talk about the strengthening and people around you. I think it's very important that I hold one of my teachers in very, very high regard, Malcolm Litton, my English teacher, which he gave me one of those pillars in life which really gave me strength to move on, right? Made me understand what English is about, made me understand what dyslexia, we always talk about the word, which is complicated. We always talk about what it's about, but a lot of people don't know what it is. And then I learned what it was and what it is and how to live with it. And I owe it to him. I also think that, as most of you are echoing, that the pillars and the strengths which are going around you at childhood or adolescence or in college, I think that has formed you to be what you are today, right? So I think to get on to Jack, if you could, we talk about the same subject, of self-confidence, self-esteem, but just now if you could move it slightly into the business world, because you were older, okay, so that schooling was something which was of the past. If you talk about self-confidence and self-esteem and then move into the business world a little bit, if you could share some thoughts.
Well, I think that word confidence is absolutely critical to all of our conversations here, and I'm grateful to everyone for mentioning that, because confidence is king, and I think you don't start that journey of regaining your confidence until you have that dyslexia diagnosis and start beginning to get the support and tools that will help you along the way. Certainly, I was a really struggling reader, and I now, even just on this call, thinking back to the number of hours I spent looking at really childish children's books, and the blue pirate and the green pirate, and I'm sick to this day of those books because I spent so much time with them. But 4 or 5 years later, I got that dyslexia assessment, and suddenly the doors were opened, and I was able to find myself on a good path and get the help and support, etc. And once you get into the workplace, it is good to try and understand your dyslexia or neurodiversity, and then to find strategies to be able to become that efficient, productive worker, because your colleagues will expect you to be delivering and to be doing useful things. And whether it's voice to text or text to speech or whatever, organizational tools or mind mapping, you need to find those routes perhaps to make your life easier, more interesting, and find that pathway through, as it were. And so it's great that so many more companies and people are willing to get that dyslexia assessment as an adult, or get the right tools as an adult to help them on their way, as it were. So and I would always encourage people to go and speak to HR and go and find out. They probably don't know that much, but at least if you talk to them, you can start a conversation, and perhaps in the company there's other people with neurodiversities you can start networking with or setting up a monthly call with, and very soon you'll find some allies and more knowledge. Someone once said, you only know what you know. And so for all of us, even to this day, there's so much we don't know about so many things. So get out there and discover it. And with the internet, aren't we lucky? We can just type in,
very true,
or ChatGPT, we can do a search and find some useful things to help us.
Okay. I want to move to Aaron. So we know that there has been struggles within schools, and we know as people have gone to college or not gone to college. But now in the working world, people can look at us differently, perhaps have done as well. I would just like to know a quick little brief on, I know you wear a lot of feathers in your cap. So let's not talk about the business per se, but let's talk about how you approached situations. If you could name a few, please.
I think going back, so when I started working back, 10, 15, probably nearly 20 years ago, we were using email, and to this day I still don't know how I actually ever sent an email that was spelt correctly, because I couldn't read the spell check. The spell check just did the biggest word. There's a really good Friends episode that has where Joey uses the thesaurus to put loads of words in the biggest word possible for Monica and Chandler's adoption papers, and that's how I think my emails were. But then moving out of youth work, going into actually working for the British Dyslexia Association, where I had an employer that wanted to support me, that gave me assistive technology to help me, anything from text to speech, speech to text, mind mapping, recording devices. And actually that was a big change for members of staff. They found it quite difficult that I could actually record on a device the whole of the meeting. They actually didn't, some of them didn't like it. And it's like, actually, no, that's in the UK. That was the law. That's what it said you could do, as long as I didn't distribute it. But I think now, looking at it, that I go in and talk to a lot of companies, and I do a lot of things around that. The attitudes are changing, and I think they're changing all over the world. I think that I remember coming to India and seeing that the Disability Act had the word dyslexia in it, and I thought that's progressive. And then understand that every state had to make a decision, and it's different in every state, but it's still a starting point. And I think that's the thing, is the comparison to me with the UK is like we have the UK Equality Act that hasn't got the right terminology for something like dyslexia, because the terminology they use is for disability. And this is where I agree that dyslexia is not a disability, but the world makes it a disability. And if the world's going to make it a disability and there's support, if I call it a disability, I'm going to call it a disability to get that support. And that's how I look at it. And I've always looked at it like that, because if I didn't have my support worker, Paula, I didn't have my assist technology, I'd be in 16 different places on the same day, because I wouldn't know where I'm going. And that's the whole point of it is. And that's where I think that actually that's where the change of attitude is now coming. And I see that around the world. And I think that technology is actually a big part of that.
So since you mentioned something about time management, I want to move it to Shilpa and say, if you could share some thoughts on time management, because we know time management it can be an issue for a lot of dyslexics. And I think it's it's an issue with a lot of children overall and a lot of adults as well. So if time management is a problem, and then you add dyslexia as a problem, then you add in, so, in the workplace, how do you deal with all this?
Yeah, it's difficult when you kind of put a lot of these things together, including time management, and then the ability to read, and some things take longer, and all of these kind of coming together. So obviously, and as others also kind of mentioned, having the tools really make a big difference. And slotting it out in terms of what you're going to do, planning out your day, and getting into that discipline really helps. And these tools essentially help you to slot out times for meetings and slot out times for the things that you need to do. So all of that is managed by a lot of technology enablement. And also looking at roles, especially when you're kind of in an organization which has multiple roles, looking at roles which are suiting to your strengths. So something which requires, like, for example, something which requires you to read a lot of documents, or maybe a lot of legal documents or contracts, might not be a suitable role in that context. Or it could be that could be taken, you could get some support for that, right? Maybe a colleague could help you out on that, or you compensate with some of your other strengths. So I would say it is a teamwork, and understanding what your strengths are, and understanding what was required for that particular role, and what you bring in becomes very important from that perspective.
So if you just quickly stay with time management, Pete, it's as we said, it's a dyslexia issue, but it can be everybody's issue. But I just want one point from you, talking about the work you do. Obviously is heavily into maths, and I know timing is key, I would say, in the subject you do. So just a quick thought on your, in the business world, how is it that you would advise someone on this?
Yeah, well, again, there are tools that do it. When we look at the way that maths can present a challenge in dyslexia, it's quite often about the ability to recall maths facts. So I'm sure most of us here, Aaron mentioned it earlier, but most of us here probably struggle to learn our times tables, but we're better at higher mathematical concepts. That's quite often the way. But time definitely presents a challenge, and time management, and often presents itself in terms of travel. That can be managed through, there are various apps that are available that allow you to plan a journey from the time that you reach your destination back to tell you the time to leave. I'm trying not to plug the things that we've built that are tools that read numbers out to you so that you can actually hear the number, which helps with recognizing the magnitude. And I do think that digital clocks help more generally as well. So, but the other thing is just having time planning apps, and actually, those are becoming default, the systems that are built into the major operating systems now. do help you to manage time. Sometimes in a really annoying way, because the last thing I need is the distraction of a reminder telling me I've got a meeting in 15 minutes when I've just started hyper-focusing on something I wanted to do. But you know, I think the technology is there now, and I mean there's some very sophisticated tools which are very good in specific contexts. But what we need to be doing is teaching people a lot more about the maths that they need in everyday life, and the digital, the technology that they need in everyday life. The curriculum, whether it's the UK or India, and needs to focus on the skills that people need to cope with in the 21st century in the workplace. You can use a calculator.
Okay, I think that leads me to asking Jack about businesses demand a lot of time and a lot of energy, and especially since you are an owner of a few of them. How, I mean, okay, one is about digitally keeping yourself in a structure, digitally understanding or having someone using that digital calendar to help you navigate through your times. But I'm sure you have your own way too, right? I mean, from all the tools which you have, and since you are a company which distributes tools to everybody, I'm sure Jack Churchill has his own way of managing the tools within the time management. Is that a fair question to ask?
I'm not sure how to answer your question, Kabir. And I guess time is a real challenge for me, and Outlook is brilliant. Just getting organized and sharing calendars with your colleagues is fantastic. So, and it's made a big difference. And now it even counts down, as Pete alludes to. It says 14 minutes till your next meeting now, as well as popping up 15 minutes before and telling you've got another meeting. It gives you a countdown clock. So it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to leave in good time to get to that meeting. I don't know why. I've always been an optimist. I always assume the roads are the best I've ever seen it, and I never imagine heavy traffic. So that's definitely one of my barriers to getting places on time. I think probably what I didn't realize until a few years ago is I have a business partner who some of you might have met called Toby, who I really didn't realize this, but we've been working together for more than 20 years now, and he's got a totally different set of skills to me, and he is incredibly organized and incredibly meticulous. Every day he'll make sure he clears his inbox, even if it's just moving the email into a subcategory saying to do 2 or to do 3. He is fantastic in our company at just keeping us all organized and keeping us all on track, as it were. So I think our two skills really complement each other, and I don't know if others have found the same thing, that they end up working closely with someone who actually has opposite skills to them. I do a lot more of the communication and the outward focusing parts of the job, but I think having two people involved in a business, a bit like in a marriage, I guess, being slightly different, having different skills can be really valuable at keeping things going in the right direction.
True. I think also the companies I work in and I run, and I think it's clear you have your pluses, you have your minuses, as I said in the beginning, and I think those ones, if you identify them before and after, then very clearly that you can as you said, your business partner is able to do something that you can't. Give it off. Don't try and reinvent the wheel, right? And I'm very clear in this fact, because I think that there is so much that perhaps I'm not able to do, or there's someone much better than me. Then why don't you hand it off? So yes, I fully agree in that. And I just wanted to know, Aaron, since you have those many hats. And I know time is a problem, so I'm not going to talk about time, but I want to talk about your understanding of how your journey in, you started off, we spoke about dyslexia, we spoke about understanding what it's about for you, but I want to start working towards how your path has moved towards the advocacy belt, right? So we're all born dyslexics. It doesn't matter what time you have known it, but you do now. So the advocacy side is something which is important in my view, and I think it is important for a lot of awareness, which I know you do a lot, and I know Jack and Jack's company does a lot. Pete does it in multiple ways, and Shilpa so as well. So I just want to know a little bit from you before I move on to Shilpa, to understand in the advocacy part, what is it that you think is your championing success, if there is one?
I think the word empathy comes in. You understand what it's like. You understand the good days, the bad days, the times that it's hard, the times that it's easier. But I think it's that for me, I went through that early part of my life going through like youth work, retail, jobs that didn't actually mean anything. They were just kind of a job. And actually having a career is very different. I was a person that enjoyed academia to a point and then decided not to carry on. So leaving college, not going to university, wasn't on my radar. So then you have that problem of actually, okay, getting that career and kind of then having the support from home. I think that was the big thing, that my parents took me to a local dyslexia association that gave me that support, that gave me that awareness that I wasn't alone, which led me on to doing support and volunteering with the British Dyslexia Association, that ultimately led me to this point where actually I spent 5.5 years working for them. I had a vast network of people, including three of us that are on the call, that I know very well. And it kind of got to that point where actually, you know what, I can change people's lives. I can support people. I can bring people together. And that's kind of probably the biggest reason why we created Dyslexia Show. Because the thing what it was is that there is so many people doing some amazing things. If we don't have everyone together in one place to show off what they're doing,
exactly, yes,
how can you do it? And that's probably the biggest thing for me is bring people together and actually give people that informed choice, give people that opportunity to see what's there, what's supportive, what can you do, and that's what it's all about. Is for me, it is kind of like just people need to know about everything that's available for them, because as like we've said, every dyslexic's different, but everyone's journey is different, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We can say that it's it's quite it's just quite interesting that we need to bring people together and talk.
True. Shilpa, what's your I'm going to move on to you and your idea on this.
Sure. So if you look at it from an India perspective, I mean, dyslexia awareness is something which has begun now, right? So there are many schools now who are kind of identifying students. There are more parents who are identifying, their wards are with a condition and others. And what happens is that it impacts their emotions, it impacts their confidence, it impacts their self-esteem. And they feel underconfident. They don't know. I mean, I've kind of come across many parents who say that, oh my God, there's no future for my child. And that's a very, very not a good place to be, right?
It's a very sad place, yes.
Yeah, it's a very sad place to be. And that's where, when you as an adult share your journey and you share, how you have navigated through that journey, it creates a ray of hope for all those fellow dyslexic children and others who are kind of now growing up and seeing, this is something is not something which has to be looked as a weakness, but something which can be worked upon as a strength. So that's why, I've been sharing my story and advocating for the awareness, where you look at this as more as a strength, not just growing up, but also in the workplace and others. And also, if you look at what's happening, with all the new technology, a lot of AI is going to take, is going to help do a lot of things which requires a lot of detail. So a dyslexic talent in terms of having that big picture thinking, looking at it as a whole, but not as parts, really helps to bring in that view of how can you navigate and how can you solve problems and how can you do it more creatively. and also the empathy, which it kind of the entire experience brings in, is also something which is required for today's workplace. And I feel all of that kind of brings together why I am doing this.
Excellent. Pete, I don't want to ask you exactly the same question, but I would like to if you could use those answers and think about also advocating. One is about dyslexia and its strengths and weaknesses, but also identification, but also talking about parenting. I think we need, and there's a lot of parents out there who need a bit of understanding on why it is that we are advocating the way we are, right? For the reasons we are doing it, which has already been explained. So I would like your thought on the advocating for parents, because I think parents are the ones who are also struggling, not only the children. The children are struggling, we have already ascertained that. But the advocation of parenting, so they understand that, look, this is a hard journey, right? We have all understood that. But it is also and can be a beautiful outcome, right? Like we all of us are sitting on this call today because there is an outcome. It might be hard, it might be stressful, but it is, in my way, I would say it's a beautiful outcome, right? Because as Jack said before, there's minus and pluses, but there's also positivity of it, right? And with one of his companies that he runs, Dyslexia, and this is what we're trying to say, right? So I would just like a little thought on the parent side of this, please.
So the genes run strong in my family. Both my daughters have dyslexia, and my grandchildren have pretty much between them the full set of neurodiverse conditions. And parenting is tough. And there isn't a guidebook that works for every child, but every parent unconditionally loves their child. However they might show that they unconditionally love that child. And I think it is really important. And for me as a parent, it was very much about my children not having the experience that I had, that I wanted to give them the freedom to explore their strengths. And when we take a deficit model of dyslexia and we talk about disability, what we're actually talking about is the environment that reduces your ability to perform in it. And I think it's really important that parents have the opportunity. I mean, bearing in mind that married parents will probably have an undiagnosed, there's a very strong genetic link from generation to generation with specific learning difficulties. That it's quite possible that you struggled at school, and one of the reasons that you want your child to excel is because you want them to have a better future than you feel you've given. So I think those strengths of empathy and support and allowing a child to explore, which also builds resilience. But the more a child is able to explore, the more their strengths will become more obvious. So it's important for parents to talk to each other. It's important to engage with, the MDA is a perfect example of an organization that will help you as a parent understand how you can be the best parent you can be any one day. And that's all we can ever hope for. My daughters are absolutely beautiful. But that's probably in spite of how awful a father I was to them. But I mean that, in a loving way, in a self-deprecating way. But I mean, just creating that environment where you allow a child to explore. You don't necessarily dwell in what they can't do. You help them to find what they can do.
Excellent. Some time ago, Jack gave me one of these masks, which reads this, and I wore it. I wore it actually coming off the plane from London, and someone randomly just asked me, says, "What does this mean?" And I just stopped for a minute because I thought to myself, look, we want to go through immigration. We don't have that much time, but I'm happy to share with you my business card. And that's what I did. And that gentleman itself, we've been in interactions for many things. And, it is these bold statements like, this is coming from a person, Jack and his company, saying that, look, we have succeeded. Okay, there are a lot of hardships and roadblocks, and I call them speed breakers because we have many in India. But I don't call them potholes. Okay, they're not potholes; they're just speed breakers. We have to just go over them. So, Jack, leading on from Pete, what he said, that how, as a parent, what is the advice you would give? Because I think advocacy, once again, is there are a lot of stumbling blocks for parents. I mean, no one is the A grade parent. We all know that. I know that myself. But what is it that you could advise parents in your view?
I think, Kabir, like you said originally, it's a parent naturally wants to look after their offspring and give them the best start in life. So I think just to be alert to the fact that your child may learn differently and may need extra help, and at some stage you may decide needs an assessment of their needs. And I think just to even be aware of those things can be a great start. And I think if you can get a young person to become a self-advocate as well in the long run, then you don't need to do so much advocating as a parent. But self-advocacy is so important. If children go through life feeling a bit shy and not willing to stick their hand up or go and talk to someone and get some help, they're not going to get as far as they would if they did stick their hand up and go and ask for help. So it's really important to get all children to be self-advocating and to go out and be proud of what they do and proud of what they can achieve. One thing I've seen in both Portland, Oregon, and in Toronto is student advocacy, like student empowerment panels, where you'll be in a school district, or there'll be a number of children from all different ranges who are all, let's say, 6 or 7 kids who are experts at one piece of assistive technology. And so the student empowerment panel will put on an event maybe once a month or every 6 weeks, and children who have just discovered about dyslexia or some sort of neurodiversity come along with their parents. And these children, who are these like neurodiversity champions in a way, sit down and explain what tools and tips they've got for how to be more productive and be more efficient in your study and stuff. And when they start seeing other children, who are able to achieve and to do things and confidence and happy to share ideas, they suddenly go, well, I can do this too. So I think I love the whole idea of student empowerment panels. I just think it's such a great way of, and what happens, those kids suddenly become so confident in themselves, they're willing to sit on a stage and speak to others, and it's the next generation of champions. So anyway.
I think I totally agree. I mean, if children today are championing the cause or champion themselves and their abilities, I think it's a great way to at least take the next generation forward. Just to, as time is coming to its end, I want to just, ask you all, there is always talk about how, one is, we know that everybody's different. Okay, we understand that, we can see that, we all come from different backgrounds, and certain things are physically you can see, certain things you cannot see in the word disability. I just want to know from all of you a little bit that if we take one ability that you think has made you shine, is it something that you could say that, yeah, this is it? So Aaron, I'll start with you, please.
Knowledge.
Excellent.
Knowledge. If you understand yourself, you understand what you can do.
Excellent.
So knowledge.
Okay, Shilpa?
I would say ability to experiment, because constantly, looking at things, experimenting. If it doesn't work out, try it again. So I would say experimenting.
Jack?
I go back to the word confidence again. Yeah, if you can get yourself to being a confident individual, it will make a big difference to both your life and those around you. So,
Pete?
Passion to really focus in on something that matters to you.
I would take all of those words and I would say, yes, I think this is important. I think all of the words are individual. They all are pertaining to yourselves. And I think that it comes from a much deeper personal journey. And I think that personal journey is very important to share. And I think there is nothing wrong in it to share. And the fact that we're all sitting here, and sharing a journey which has been complex, to say the least, and we're all from different parts of the world, and that we can all come together because, as we know, there are platforms today which is, we're just always next door on a Zoom call or on a Teams call or on anything else. And I think the world is becoming smaller. And I also think that, as years go on, as we stop working in silos and we start working as a team together, I think we would make a greater and a better place for all children with learning difficulties, and make them all able instead of using this word disabled. That is my little thought of this evening. And I think, I don't want to thank you all. I'm just very grateful. I'm very grateful that we could all sit together and talk about this. And I know this conversation can go on and on. It will never stop because these are our lives. But no, thank you to all of you to be a part of this. We cherish every journey. We cherish every idea, every advocate out there, where they come with all their different tools and equipments. But no, it's been a journey for me too. It's been hard. It's been, all the businesses I work in, all the industries I've worked in, it's been hard, but it's always been, there is a silver lining, and the silver lining is that, yes, I'm a proud dyslexic and I'll always be one. So that is my silver lining. So thank you, all of you. I want to open up the questions to the public, please. So Shifa, if you're there, if you could just make it the normal view so we could see everybody, please. And if you unpin us, I think that's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you put up your hands, and then we will let you in to ask a question. So please, if there's any questions for the panelists or for myself. Shifa, if you put it to all view, yes, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's any, okay, there is I will just ask you to unmute, please, Sarika, and please ask a question. Please turn on your camera if you can.
Hi everybody. Kabir, I'll skip turning on the camera.
Okay, no problem.
But thank you all for this amazing session. And I am a neurodiverse individual, but I'm a special educator by profession. And when I was listening to all five of you, it was like a journey. It was amazing to hear. And because I deal with such children, I just want to, one thing that I get carried away is when they get emotional and frustrated with the curriculum that they have to go through, or even with they I was sharing with Kabir the other day. Someone says like, I want to end my life. We really know they don't want to, but it's what they are feeling. So what would you advise a special educator to do during such a thing, or how to handle such emotional meltdowns? Because you can see them struggle.
Who would like to take that question? Okay, Pete, please.
So yeah, I as a special educator as well, Sarika, I completely understand, and it is a challenge when students emotional breakdown. Somebody who's a good friend of most of us on the panel, somebody called Dr. Steve Chin, who Kabir has known from childhood, and most of the rest of us know professionally. talks about pragmatic empathy. And I think that's a really good way of describing what we need to do as special educators. And it's a skill I think it's a skill that you can't teach, but I think it's part of the reason that we go into special education in the first place. And that's always finding the route in and the explanation for why things will get better. So active discussions about building resilience are really positive. About it's okay to find something difficult and to have an emotional response to it. And by that form of communication,
Right.
you are letting somebody else know that you need to move forward. Kabir's saying we won't bite, but we might do. But so I think that sort of pragmatic empathy, that sort of like building your conversation with somebody about what is essentially positive psychology.
Right.
There is Penn State University actually have a department that focuses on positive psychology, and it's something that's really important. So helping students to develop grit, helping students to develop resilience, and part of that journey is going to overwhelm, but accepting the overwhelm as being okay, and praising somebody for allowing their emotions to come out, but helping them to manage the next step.
Right. Right.
I hope that helped.
Very helpful, Pete. Thank you so much for this answer.
Thank you, Sarika. Anybody else? Please put up your
Kabir,
hand.
can I add something to that?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Aaron.
Yeah, to me, I think it's also one of the things that we found, especially working in our dyslexia association, when we've had children not as severe as that, not actually saying they want to end their life, but definitely in that meltdown state where they don't want to be there and they don't want to engage. Focusing on what their strengths are, I think, is really important. I think that thing is showing them, are they good at football? Are they good at painting? Are they good at doing something? And kind of really showing them that actually you have a strength. That empatheticness, I think, is definitely there. I think that what Pete said is so important. But that other side of it is kind of going, well, actually, you can't. You may find this difficult, but actually, you do this better than anyone. And that's the thing. I think that's the thing. And praise is always a brilliant thing. I think that's always the thing for me that I've seen, that when you get that praise and that thanks, it really does change. Really does change a lot of things.
Definitely, Aaron. And you're so right about it. Praise makes a huge difference. So, and it should be a genuine praise. So it does make a difference. Thank you so much, Aaron, for your answer.
To add to Aaron's point, I mean, like, I could share from my personal experience. What really helped was, combining things which are strengths, right? Like, for example, when I struggled with maths, looking at it from a painting perspective kind of made it easier for me to kind of do maths. So just helping the child to combine things that what are their strengths, like maybe a dance or maybe a sports, and then combine it with what they're struggling with, could also be a way to kind of, navigate through that.
Thank you so much for that thought, Shilpa. It really helps. Thank you.
Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? As I said, don't be shy. We won't bite your head off. I don't know about Pete, but I won't bite your head off. So.
No, he's not that bad, Kabir.
So I think, if there's no other questions, I would, I think this journey is not ending. It's a story which is in the forefront. When we talk about everybody's ability, there is so much to be spoken about. The journey is ongoing. It will always be ongoing. And I always say, we have one life, so let's enjoy it. Let's do the best that we can. And I want to say that as a proud dyslexic myself, there has been, as I said before, a lot of hardships. There's been a lot of learning. There's been a lot of knowledge sharing. But the silver line is that the fact that we have also come through it. So let's use that power, let's use that knowledge and educate as many as we can in the path we all are. Some are educators on this call, some are parents, some are teachers. We all have the power and we all can push everybody forward. So I would like to invite Mashrad Khan from Maharashtra Dyslexia to give a vote of thanks if there's no one else going to ask a question. Thank you, Mashrad.
Hello, thank you, Kabir. So this was a very, uh, uh, a session which had so many perspectives, and the sharings were such that we got to learn a lot in terms of your journeys, your experiences as in the work situation, also when it comes to advocacy. And I think each one of you had something very different to share with us, and something like which actually touched our hearts, because to come and share a journey is not easy, we know that. And for you all to be here, not only to share, but also taking it upon yourself to advocate for those with dyslexia. Hats off to all of you. And thank you, Kabir, for moderating. And and thank you, Kabir, for getting all of them together. It's not an easy task coordinating different time zones with everybody, having their own tight schedule. This being the Dyslexia Awareness Month, each one is doing their bit in this month, traveling, and the excitement that we had, that we are going to have all of them, and we get an opportunity to interact. I think Kabir, you have fulfilled it for us. So thank you, Shilpa,
Pete, everybody.
Jack. Thank you so much, because I know you all are very busy people, and that you agreed in such a short time. We did not give you much time to think, and the dates and the time, getting that all done, Kabir. Thanks a lot. And just one thing, though we have finished the session and I have thanked you. What I have seen is all of you refer to yourselves as dyslexic, right? And there is this one whole lobby which says that you should not call people dyslexic, to call them people with dyslexia. And we when we talk, we always talk in terms of so and so with dyslexia. We don't use the word dyslexic. So just before your leave, I would like to hear from you all about this word dyslexic being debated upon.
Okay, Shilpa, you're up.
So I get where it is coming from, because you need to be sensitive about how it is perceived, and being more inclusive in others. And when we are talking, because we are owning the condition, I think both perspectives are fine. We are kind of owning it, and that's why we are saying we are dyslexic. But when you're kind of referring to somebody else, somebody who may or may not like it to be called in a certain way, and again, if you're kind of looking at it from a labeling perspective, yeah, I mean, there are there are ways in which you have to kind of deal with it. So I would say it is situational, and it would kind of vary from situation to situation.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you so much.
Jack?
I mean, I've spent some time in Canada, and they argue over the word dyslexia and learning disabilities. And there's two groups, and the problem that's caused, it's caused a blurring of everything. So one group's scared to say the word dyslexia and all the rest. So, I think it's really important that you rally around a word, that means something to people, and that they can quickly then go off and find solutions and support for. And I think we've got to be a little bit out there. You can't just be, might have this or might have that. You've got to have terminology which allows people to find out more about the situation they're in and to get the support, because dyslexia doesn't need to rule your life. It's just needs to be something you need to gain control of to a certain extent, I think. And I like the word dyslexia, and I like being diagnosed with dyslexia. It's been very helpful. So,
Aaron?
It's a debate that's been around a long time, and it's been a debate here in the UK. I've probably spent 5 years at the BDA saying that you couldn't use the word affect either. So dyslexia affects, or you had to use the word affects. It's one of them things. For me now, especially with the dyslexia show, we don't say the word dyslexic, we say individuals, because everyone's an individual in their own right, and if they want to use the word dyslexia, they are dyslexic, they can do. And I think that it is personal preference. It's this concept of that we have now. A lot of people use their pronouns as him, her, she, her, and he, she, that kind of concept. And I think it's that concept of that change. It's like when I was at home, you'd never say the word she because you'd just be told off by your mother. And that's the thing where now that's changed drastically. And so I think that's the thing, is that the word dyslexic or being dyslexic will kind of grow. But it is, like Jack said, it's being known as something and knowing what it is. And it not always do people understand it. So that's, I think, once we get past that concept of that people understand that dyslexia isn't just about reading and writing, it's about everything we've talked about today, I think that's when we can see more people being positive about it. I think it's that positive attitude about it. If you're not positive about it, you don't want to be called it. But if you are positive about it, you don't have an issue with it.
Thanks a lot. Pete?
Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, how long have you got? This could be another hour on its own, right, but as quickly as I can. When we take this from a cognitive psychology perspective, it becomes very challenging. Where the neurodiverse conditions overlap is a challenge. But for me, in this context where we're talking about conditions that we all own, it's important to identify as that person. I mean, I've got co-occurring conditions, so sometimes I identify as neurodiverse. But when I'm in a situation like this, I want to own my dyslexia, so therefore I am dyslexic is my label, and I choose to use it. And I think that's the key. I think people with a condition can choose how to refer to themselves. People without a condition need to have the empathy to leave it as open and unchallenging as possible, to not present it as a deficit.
Thank you.
So
now it's your turn.
I want to say, let's take the word failure, let's take the word dumb, stupid, let's take the word let's take the statements about you'll never achieve anything, let's take the word that, you know what, this person is just worthless. Let's take all these words, put them in a box, and I say bring it on. Bring it on, and we will show you. We will show you how things with dyslexia are going to change the world. We will show you how these words have only accelerated most of us to be that better person. And we will show you how dyslexia is and always will be an ability. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you.
So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to my amazing panelists, Shilpa, Pete, Jack, Aaron. I mean, it's always great to sit and chat with you on a one-to-one, and it's amazing to get all of you on a call. So thank you so much from wherever you are in the world. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. One day before Dussehra, so happy Dussehra to everybody.
Yes, happy Dussehra to everyone.
And we wish you all the very best. And if you want to reach out, please, as I mentioned, my email address is there. MDAs is always there. if you want to reach out for anything, if it's assistive technology, if it is self-confidence, self-esteem, if it's dyscalculia, if it's just, you know what, how to be a beautiful dyslexic, let me know, and I will get you the right person to speak to if it's not me, and I can help. So thank you very much. And also a big thank you to Shifa in the background. She's the boss. She runs the show. So Shifa, thank you for everything. You've been amazing, and all the artwork you've done and the work you have done with me. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we will join again soon, all of us. And have a good evening when you're sitting in this side of the world. Have a great afternoon sitting on that side of the world. But you know, it's always been a journey. It will always be a journey, but it's always going to be a fun one. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.